If I said to you that it is not your professors nor your college or university's responsibility to ensure that you succeed in college, would you feel triggered? In this video, I'm going to talk about how to take personal responsibility as a college student to ensure your success. And if you got a little bit defensive, angry, or frustrated with me when I said that it's not your professors nor your college or university's job to make sure that you succeed, that's a natural response. And it's okay if you do believe that it is their responsibilities to make sure that you pass the class, do well, and graduate. But the perspective that I want to offer you in this video is that as long as it remains someone else's responsibility to create or give you what it is that you want to succeed this semester, they will hold all of the power in your life. They will hold all of the power on whether or not you get to achieve it. And for me, that dynamic never feels good. It puts us in a victim mindset. And it doesn't create a situation where you are taking care of yourself and having your own back. So while I personally do teach to my college students that I coach to take full advantage of any and every opportunity that they get from their professors, any service that their university or college offers to ensure their success, I also teach them how to take radical responsibility over their own success as a student, because I always want to place my students in a position where they can succeed under any circumstances because they are fully equipped to meet their own needs first. So let's talk now about what it means to take personal responsibility as a college student. So first, you have to understand what is within your control and what isn't. Okay? What's within your control and what isn't. And the reason why we're identifying what is within your control and what isn't is because your job is just to focus on doing what is within your control. And it is also your job to manage your thoughts and your emotions about what is not within your control. Managing your emotions around that boundary. People, colleges, universities, your professors, the services that they offer, all of those decisions, your university, your college, your professor have the right to do whatever they want. Your job is to decide what you're going to do, what you're going to choose to think, how you're going to choose to feel when they do what they want. So I'm going to list out all of the things that we cannot control as a student. And we want to control these things sometimes. But the things that you can't control as a student are your professor's accent. Believe it or not, I have a lot of students who will say, I can't succeed because I can't understand my professor. They're from another country and they have an accent and I don't understand what they're saying in class. Can't control that. You can't control how they teach. You can't control how fast they talk, how slow they talk. You can't control what they teach. You cannot control how the exam is structured. You cannot control when they're available for office hours. You cannot control when and where your classes are held. You cannot control if they give you a study guide or not. You cannot control the amount of reading that they assign to you. You cannot control the amount of discussion questions that they assign to you. You cannot control your major requirements. You cannot control the amount of time that is given to you to complete an assignment. You cannot control your due dates. You cannot control the deadlines. You cannot control how many pages your paper is supposed to be. You cannot control whether or not your professor accepts or denies late work. You cannot control what support services are currently offered at your school. You cannot control when they are offered or how often they are offered. And yet, as students, we spend so much time complaining about the way that things are. We feel entitled to get a say in all of this. But that is not our responsibility. Your college, your professors, your universities get to do whatever they want. That is their right. You get to do whatever you want. That is your right. When we're not taking personal responsibility in college, it looks like us spending a lot of our time, a lot of our attention, a lot of our focus being fixated on what we don't have, on what we could have had, on how things should be. And again, in this state of mind, choosing to think this way about what is offered to us and what isn't offered to us, we place all of the power in our professors' hands, in our university's hands, in our college's hands, waiting on them to change, waiting on them to make a move that suits us before we get what it is that we want. And the truth of the matter is, we cannot control them. We cannot control the timeline in which they make changes, if they do decide to make changes at all. Most of the time, if we truly want to be able to create the success it is that we desire this semester, we are going to have to take full responsibility for that. And I personally never want to be in a position where I don't have the power to create whatever it is that I desire. I always want to be in control of my results. I always want to be the person that gets to choose what they can and cannot have. I always want to be the reason why I did or didn't achieve something, because when I have full control, nothing is off limits. I always have control of myself. I can always learn. I can always tweak. I can always get better. I can always try again. I can always go somewhere else. When I have the power, when I have choice, when I create all of the opportunities for myself with the way that I'm choosing to look at things and think about things, then there is nothing that is holding me back. But when we put ourselves in a position where they have to change before I can succeed, they have to do this before I can do better in the class, they have to change this about the institution before I can do whatever it is that I want to do, we're always going to be at the mercy of things outside of ourselves. And that is you putting yourself in a place of disempowerment. And we always have power. We just forget. We give it away with statements like, I can only be successful if I have this type of professor who gives me these types of study guides and only tests me on Fridays and only gives me 2 reading assignments the entire semester. Whenever you are putting limitations or you're creating these scenarios and these rules about how and when you can succeed, you will always be giving away your power. It will never be up to you whether or not you can succeed or not. And I know this is like a tough pill to swallow. But your power lies as a student in your ability to turn your attention, your energy, and your focus towards how you want to handle getting your needs met. How you want to show up anyway, even when you don't get the study guide, even when your professor has an accent, even when you can't get to the tutoring center because you work until 7 p.m. and that's the last session. Who are you going to be anyway? How are you going to succeed anyway? You take back all of your power when you start thinking this way. You get to be the one who makes the move. You get to be the one to change. You get to be the one who creates everything it is that you want. And it takes a lot of emotional maturity to take personal responsibility, because it doesn't feel good when we realize we're not being the best versions of ourselves. We're not being a version of ourselves that makes us proud. It also doesn't feel good when we're anticipating all of the effort that we're going to have to put in if we take personal responsibility. Maybe the money that we're going to need to spend, the decisions that we're going to need to make about our schedules, the rearrangement of our lives in order to get what it is. It's so much easier to put it on other people. It's so much easier to have someone else change and someone else make the decision and someone else do the hard work. It's not easy placing ourselves in a position where we create an environment where we can win. But it also doesn't feel good when we feel like there isn't anything that we can do about our situation, to feel trapped, to feel stuck. And you put yourself in that position when you blame your professor, when you blame the assignment, when you blame your past, when you blame your college or university. Because as long as it is their responsibility, you don't have any control over it. Which means you also don't have control over whether or not you get to achieve what it is that you want, because you've made it contingent on if they change. And they have to decide to change. And they may not want to change. So then what? Then what? So, as stomach turning as it is, and as uncomfortable as it is, taking responsibility is hands down what I would do time and time again. I would choose that time and time again. So what I want to do now is I want to focus on the things that you can take radical responsibility over as a student. These are the things that you want to spend your time thinking about, learning about, getting better at, and doing instead of waiting on your professor to change or complaining about them, okay? If you want success, you get to create it, baby. And I'm about to list all the things that you can focus on, that you have control over to create that success for yourself. Learning any skill, you need to be a better student. The classes that you take within your major requirements, whether or not you plan your week, whether or not you plan when you're going to study, how often you go to tutoring, whether or not you seek out additional help inside of the university or outside, deciding how you study, the study plan you use, the study strategy you use, deciding whether or not you will try again if you have to take a withdrawal or you fail the class. The amount of resources you take advantage of and use, how much you study, if you ask questions and how many questions you ask in class, and how often you ask until you get the answer that helps you. You get to control how you ask the question. You get to control if you go to office hours or not, and how often you attend them, and how you show up when you attend, and how prepared you are when you attend. You have control over how you communicate your struggles to your professors in your college and universities, whether or not you actually voice your needs, whether or not you actually ask for the help. You have full control over how you respond to falling behind, what you decide to do and not do. You get to decide how you respond to getting a low grade or feeling overwhelmed. You get to decide how you respond to the timelines that you're given. You get to decide how you show up. When you focus on what you can control, you always know what you can focus on. You always know what you could be learning. You always know what you can do. You always know what you can get better at to achieve the success you want in the semester. And that is powerful. Taking responsibility for your own success gives you all of the power. When you decide as a student, I am responsible for giving myself exactly what I need, you get clear on what is within your control. You get clear on what isn't within your control. And you always know what to focus on. You always know what to get better at. You always know exactly what you need to do to achieve the success it is that you want. The value of being willing to take personal responsibility is that you become the type of student who earns better grades, graduates, and creates all the free time that they desire, no matter what happens, no matter what professor you end up with, no matter what accent they have, no matter how many pages of reading they give you, no matter how many assignments, no matter how bad life gets. When you make it your job to take care of you, you will always succeed.